Thursday Night Live here at the Auburn University Club. Nathan King here with Jason Caldwell, the Auburn Undercover podcast coming in. We're here live on location, Jason, as we were last week, hoping to make this a weekly thing. And
thankfully, and hopefully loud and clear. So people can hear us now, so it's great. So
we're getting some thumbs up from everybody there in the dining area. So hopefully everybody enjoyed dinner tonight. Enjoys this show. If you guys are watching live, again, hopefully we've overcome the audio issues from last week. But Jason, should be a fun show today. Obviously, a lot to get into after Auburn's game against Cal. Maybe here in 10-15 minutes or so, we'll be greeted by a special guest. We'll see how that goes. But Jason, I mean, we were talking this time last week about the Cal game and that being an opportunity for Auburn to have their first real test of the season, particularly with that offense and with that passing game. Here we are a week later, and we could see a lot of changes on Saturday, starting with the quarterback position.
Yeah, no, it's quite different. Yeah, the mindset, mood, everything's really different than what it was last week at this time, because you're coming off a game where you throw for over 400 yards, you have big plays, you do all these things on offense. Last week, pretty much fell flat. 5 turnovers, could have been a 6th. Missed opportunities on offense. There were things that could have been done and could have been had for Auburn in the passing game that just didn't happen. And so, starting Monday, we heard from Hugh Freeze. He reiterated again on Wednesday, Nathan, that this is much different week. What's it look like Saturday? We don't know. I don't know that they even know quite yet what it's going to look like, because I think the entirety of this week's going to be important, which means even Thursday night, as they're getting off the practice field probably about now, they'll have to go back and kind of see what the week's been like. But I think one of the things that was going to be important this week was how Hank Brown will respond. Not Peyton Thorne necessarily, but I think it was more of, okay, Hank, here's some opportunity. We need more reps. How do you look? How do you handle things? I think it's already really underneath. Before we talk to them, hey, what do you see all of the middle side of things? I think from then on, it's been a push to see, and I think we'll see 2 guys on Saturday. How much, who the first guy is, I don't know if we'll find out until 6:30.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like you mentioned, that meeting on Monday with Peyton Thorne and Hank Brown, Hugh Freeze said, all right, I'm going to meet with each of them individually, go over the plays from the Cal game and kind of see how they respond, see what they break down. Hugh Freeze said it. He said both of them were pretty precise in that meeting. I think, like you said, this week to me is a little bit less about Peyton Thorne and more about Hank Brown, because Thorne's a 6th-year guy. You know how he's going to respond in a situation like this, most likely. Somebody like a 4-time. He's got a lot of criticism this week, Jason.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But someone who's a 4-time team captain, I mean, that's an extremely rare thing in college football. You expect him to respond the right way. It reminds me, Jason, I was thinking about this the other day, when TJ Finley came back and saved Auburn from Georgia State. That whole next week, when they were getting set to play LSU, kind of felt like this. We knew TJ Finley would play. We didn't know what it would look like. Ended up both starting, and then I think they gave TJ like the 3rd drive game. I would not be surprised if that's the kind of situation we see on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know which one goes first and who gets the 3rd series. That's what they're kind of waiting to see. This reminds me a little bit, honestly, of Alabama last year too, and Jalen Milroe going to USF. He didn't play, he didn't start. They went with somebody else, and it kind of opened up the door a little bit for Jalen Milroe to go back to work and kind of figure it out. I think their offense changed a little bit. That's probably the biggest thing, I think, no matter who the quarterback is this week. I think we're going to see a little different type of offense. I think we're going to see less of last year from the quarterback standpoint. I think we're going to see more of the football. And I think probably more along the lines of, hey, here's 2 options. You have a run-pass option, not, hey, there's 2 different things you can do based on the quarterback, the other. And I'm going to just do a little bit more less, a little bit more traditional base offense this week, just to see what you have.
Yeah, I mean, the players talked about that this week. Hugh Freeze talked about that this week, saying that maybe against Cal, it was a situation where maybe threw too much. And this boat was carried. Maybe it's going to get carried a little bit too much in terms of this load. And I think that's what people latched on to on Monday. I think, Jason, we want to talk about this week. Hugh Freeze said, okay, if this continues from week forward, then we need to go in a different direction. I think a lot of Auburn fans latched on to that and said, well, that was an example of it continuing last year. But I think the key in this, Jason, this is not the same offense as last season. It's very similar. This was the first time Peyton Thorne running more of Hugh Freeze's offense than
Yeah, no, I think when you look at it, it is different. But you would have to go, hey, I saw some things that I didn't like. And that's what Hugh Freeze said. When you start talking about the missed opportunities, he said as many as 15 plays where they felt like there were opportunities to be had and for whatever reason didn't get made. A couple of times, offensive line maybe. I thought for the first time in a while, you could pin a lot of them on the quarterback, and I don't think Freeze has backed off of that very much, saying, hey, we got to be better there. And so the one thing that is tough, we've talked about it, there's been no question who the best quarterback in practice has been really since the spring, and it's been Peyton Thorne. But the flip side is that he's also a guy that's played a lot of football in his 6 years into his college career. He should be better than those other guys. So at some point you go, how does it translate to the field? How are you taking that to the game field and applying it? And it didn't happen last week. How much of that do you take another look at? Do you scale it back and then go, okay, all right, here you go, Peyton. We're going to scale the offense back. But again, how much can you learn against a New Mexico team that defensively is pretty dreadful? Now, they can score some points, but that's not a team defensively that's going to challenge you a whole lot.
That is what's really interesting to me, Jason, about this game is, you talk about New Mexico defensively. I was up last night on our show. There are dead last in college football in yards per play this season. 8.8 yards per play. The last place team in college football last year allowed 6.8.
Holy cow.
So it's pretty significant. So that's my thing, Jason. That's what I'm interested in seeing on Saturday is how much, especially if it's a downpour and they've got to run the ball, it's a 65-70% chance of rain. How much can you learn from a game like this? And then you've got Arkansas, and then you've got the SEC opener. I think it's a prickly situation that this coaching staff is in, trying to squeeze as much as they can out of this game, like you said, against a defense that's just not very good.
This one's about execution. Going, hey, here's what we're going to give you. Here's what we need you to do when we hand it to you. I don't necessarily think you have to go and. To me, the thing, somebody asked me this week, what do you want to see? I said, look, I'd love to see somebody execute within the framework of the offense. So it's not necessarily talking about throwing 5 50-yard one-on-one balls, but you're taking the snap, you see the pressure, you find an underneath receiver for a first down. Those are the things I think that you have to be able to do to execute on offense, because you're not going to find the ball and throw the one-on-one balls 10, 12 times a game against Oklahoma and Georgia and Alabama and Missouri and be really successful. So who runs the offense? Can you execute just the things they're asking to do? And then can you avoid third and longs and turnovers? Third and longs and turnovers are offense killers, and we saw that last week. They just went, you can't overcome those things when you're really good. When you're not very good, it's an impossibility to overcome that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 5 turnovers. We said it before the game, Jason, against Cal. 5 turnovers was going to get you beat against pretty much anybody. It was back in 2017, Auburn played Mercer. Had 5 turnovers in that game. That was a game that went to the fourth quarter. But I'm with you, Jason. This felt a little bit more, and I hate to harp on it over and over again, this felt more on the quarterback position than maybe some of the other games we've seen in recent memory for Auburn, where a bunch of quarterback criticism came into play. I think this one, and Hugh Freeze has touched on that a bunch this week, talking about those decisions from Peyton Thorne. I'm interested to hear from you, Jason. What have you kind of made of Hugh Freeze's response to this? Because, we've known him to be a very transparent guy. Tiger Talk was A to Z. It was laying out all of the issues. I think an element of that has to do with the fact that Peyton Thorne is a 6th-year guy. This is not the worst thing he's ever been through on the college level. He has seen a lot of different stuff. What have you kind of made of Hugh Freeze's response to this and kind of the plan he may have in place right now?
I think that's been a big part of this is how he's responded. And we've heard him kind of defend. He has not defended a whole lot this week. He hasn't defended really the job they did either. He said, we've got to be better. But there's been a lot heaped on the quarterback because this is an offense where a lot's expected from the quarterback. And so they put a lot on his plate. And I think now you go, it's not a great feeling as a coach to go, we got to take it away. We got to take away some of those things and add some of that, figure out what you're going to do on offense to get in control, do that. And the offensive line is a question too. You got to have some shuffles, some changes on the offensive line as well. And so I think when you look at those two things combined, I think we're going to see a lot of different looks from this Auburn offense come Saturday.
It will be a lot more interesting than we expected the New Mexico game to be a few weeks ago, because this is a rebuilding team under Bronco Mendenhall. He's a really good coach. I mean, we've known that. We've known he's done a lot of good things in a lot of different places, but this game has taken on obviously a little bit of a different life form as we move into week 3 now. If our special guest is ready to hop on, we may pull up a chair here in just a second. But
excited to have Auburn AD John Cohen here with us. But yeah, I mean, lots to talk about from an AD front, the football as well, and I think we'll talk a little bit of everything here. And but yeah, this is an important week when you try to overcome issues, when you start talking about the things you're doing on offense, defense, special teams. This is an Auburn week. This is a week where you go out and go, just execute, do the things you're supposed to do, take care of business, and if you do that, you'll be fine. But I think that's goal number one is, hey, no matter what you do, go out and avoid mistakes, avoid the penalties, the things that plagued you last week. If you do those things, you won't have to do a ton to be able to score points Saturday.
Christian, I don't know if you want to pull up a chair here for John, but quite a big first guest we've got here on Thursday Night Live. Hoping to have a guest on for you guys pretty consistently as we go throughout the season. But we've got a pretty big one here as Auburn gets set to play New Mexico. So if you're here at the AU Club, Auburn Athletic Director John Cohen joins us right now. So everybody welcome him on in. And John, thanks so much for joining us today. Yeah, we'll pull this over a little bit. And I guess, your sort of standpoint, you're a former coach. This is a bit of a soul-searching for them, not only because of the loss, but because anytime you have to make big personnel decisions like this, I guess just your takeaways from last Saturday and what you're excited to see from this team moving forward.
Yeah, I think you really broke down the game. Coach Freeze is certainly in a much better position to make these observations from around, but we're in constant contact, and I think it's pretty obvious that we didn't have very good execution offensively. I think that there's no question that we did not have very good quarterback. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I think it's pretty obvious. I think you watched the film. Our protection wasn't great, but there's really 2 or 3 plays when you break it down that could have really changed the game. We didn't see the field very well. Maybe it was because the protection wasn't as great as we wanted it to be, but I was really proud of our defense in that football game. They made a great adjustment in the second half. I thought our special teams were very good. But you got to score more than 14 points when you're playing a Power 4 football team to win a football game, and you can't turn it over 5 times. And not all those turnovers were the fault, obviously, of the quarterback position. You got a fumble, you got a drop pass, you got all kinds of things going on. But I think the key is we know that we have to be a better offensive football team to compete in the best league in America.
Yeah, John, as a guy that was in the coaching realm, that's where you made your hay. But what's a message that you have for a team when you have a performance like that? It's a long year. There's a lot of things you have to do, but what's a message when you have a game like that?
Well, I think the message is you're searching for the right personnel, and it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your past is. You got to go out and win your job every single day. You got to win your job every single day. I think that's Coach Freeze's message, and there's no doubt in my mind we're gonna be a very, very good football team. But there are some really tough personnel decisions that Coach Freeze has to make for the betterment of our football team.
I want to tee you up a little bit on the recent news surrounding Jordan-Hare Stadium. Obviously, this is something you've been talking about essentially since you got here, is the upgrading of that side of the stadium. We know about the new video board. That was something that got put in place, I believe, around this time last year. Now you guys are moving forward with a new facility that is going to be an all-around sort of space. Just in your own words, talk about what that looks like, what your vision for that looks like, and how excited you are to be moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. You look at the scoreboard, the video board situation, and what you find is that our fans deserve it. Everybody that sits on the south end deserves to have a north end zone that where they can see a video board. I mean, that's part of the experience of playing in a big-time SEC venue, is being able to see a video board. So I think that's going to get done. I'm really excited about the opportunity to investigate premium areas in the north end zone. We have 100, and we've said this over and over again, but we have 103 accounts in Tigers Unlimited that are looking for a suite. We're not going to build 103 suites, but we're certainly going to make more premium opportunities available for our fans, because there's a real demand for it.
Yeah, and that's a big part of athletics. You think about budgets, you think about NIL, everything that goes into it now on. There has to be premium seating, and you have to increase premium seating. And I know that's something that Auburn has been behind on for a long time. It's not just, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people waiting on suites, but that's one thing that even you look and go, man, there's two sides, but I mean, there's a lot of people that have added a ton of premium seating since Auburn's really done, and you've added some in the corners who've done what you could do, but this is a huge step in that direction.
Yeah, I think so. It's a huge step, but again, we have two different board approvals. Moving forward, we've got to do a great job selecting premium architects. We got a long way to go in design and process and everything else. I think we can get there, but we want to see this come to fruition. Again, there's a demand, and I think Jordan-Hare is obviously one of the more special venues in all of college athletics, but I think we can enhance that.
John, I wanted to ask about just kind of the changing landscape in college football. We saw it somewhat recently with you guys in that UCLA series, getting nixed. Obviously, it was a few years down the road. How do you, as an administration, try to keep pace with these plans that you have? And all of a sudden, the team down the road is now in a different conference where they've got to go a different way, and you're trying to schedule a new opponent. And you don't know. I mean, the Pac-12 is changing as of today. Like, you don't know what conferences these teams are going to be in. How much does that element of things kind of keep you guys on your toes?
Yeah, it's constantly changing, and we need. I think we have an opportunity to get something right that probably should have been made right a long time ago. I think there's going to be great opportunities for our student athletes. They're already getting opportunities, but I think we have the opportunity for it to become more permanent, more stable, more predictable. And I think all that's good for the recruiting process for all of our sports. And I think it's better for the Southeastern Conference as well.
Scheduling is always a big deal. First, as a former coach, how glad are you to not have to challenge the schedules that you look at the baseball and softball teams? These leagues are tough in every sport, but baseball, softball, that is a brutal stretch to have to play in this league.
It really is. And, softball might be the best sport in the SEC. I think it's like 4 of the last 6 years. Every school in the SEC has made it to postseason in the NCAA tournament in the sport of softball. Baseball, obviously, has just decided national champions over and over and over again. And that's why you want to play in this league. And that's why you want to play at somewhere like you want to play at Auburn, because it's the best of all worlds. You're competing at the highest level. You have great coaching. You have great facilities. You have the opportunity to end up playing for championships.
Yeah, let's talk about facilities. Touch a little bit on baseball, because I know that's something that obviously there's been a big need as well. Adding premium seating for baseball, adding some of those things. If they haven't known about Plains Park in a while, it's going to look really different for folks down the first base line, but it's coming together really well.
Yeah, I think Plainsman Park has had a facelift, or more than a facelift, a restructuring of the facility, and I think it's going to be a terrific venue, one of the best in the Southeastern Conference. And the whole right field side is just going to be an incredible opportunity. And you look at the War Eagle wall that we will have in place, especially for students, and I think you have a unique opportunity to have one of those ballparks that's not cookie cutter. It's just really different, and I think folks will really enjoy the improvements we made.
John, the revenue sharing aspect of things that we know is coming down the pipeline. Obviously, the less prepared a program is, the worse off they're going to be. How do you guys sort of put things in place right now to get ready for that? It's still a ways away. There's a lot on your table as an administration at a power program like this, but what are the steps that you and your staff are taking to say, hey, things are changing all the time, they are about to change even more here in, I guess, a year or so?
Well, I think when you talk about budgeting and the potential of what lies ahead, I think we have to be really prepared for a possible revenue share, a possible financial pathway for student athletes in the coming years, and it's not cheap. I think this is something that should have been addressed a long time ago, and if I think it would have been addressed a long time ago, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in right now. I think we really stuck our heads in the sand for a long period of time, and now we have an uncontrolled system of free agency with the portal and with the way this has come down, which needs some help, and I think we will get some help. And I view us, this is an opportunity for us to get it right.
How difficult is it from an administration standpoint to know what direction to go when they're still just trying to decide how big rosters are going to be for teams? Because the rosters are set, the scholarship numbers, trying to figure out how many scholarships you're going to have for football and baseball and softball. How tough is that when you're trying to give messages and guidance to your coaches, because they got to figure it out in terms of recruiting, how many numbers? I mean, that's a pretty big ball that's still out there.
It is, but at the same time, some of this is out of our hands, and it's in courtrooms, and we don't get to make decisions until they make decisions. So really, what you have is a timing issue, which is a little bit of a shame, because you have an early signing period for all sports besides football that's going to happen in November. You have football that's going to happen in December. How can we expect our coaches to make changes when we don't even know what the changes are going to be just yet? We're all kind of on pause. Maybe that's unavoidable, but certainly I think these are challenging times. But again, I think some positive things can happen.
What are the biggest things you've learned? You probably get asked this a bunch, but you had a lot of SEC experience coming into here. This obviously wasn't a shock to you, but what are the biggest things you've learned now, having been here at Auburn for quite some time now? I mean, it feels like forever ago that you and Hugh were hired at this point. I guess just what are the biggest takeaways you've had so far, and what are you excited about moving forward?
Well, Nell and I coming to Auburn, we knew this was a great community. We knew it was a world-class educational institution. But having been here for almost 2 years, you realize how accurate that really is. You see the Princeton Review says that Auburn students are the happiest students in the country, and you say, yeah, come on, like that's opinion. And then you're here for 2 years, and you're like, no, that's not opinion, that's real. This is real stuff. So Auburn has delivered so much more than I ever thought possible, just because of the Auburn people and the Auburn spirit, and really the coaches that I've inherited, that I've gotten to work with. We have tremendous coaches here at Auburn. I was just looking at this before. This takes tremendous vision, but I'm just going to say this. We had a basketball coach not too long ago that I think was somewhere in the neighborhood, I'm going to get this wrong, but after year 3, he was 38-54. And there's probably some people at other schools that might have said, that's enough, we're going to do something different, but not Auburn. Auburn said, this is a really good basketball coach with a really good track record, and a guy who's going to do it the right way, and because he's going to do it the right way, it's going to take a little bit more time. And what has transpired since that 3rd year? I believe 5 different championships. So I think it's important for folks to realize when you inherit something that might not be going the right way, it takes a little bit longer to get it going the right way.
Yeah, and to that point too, I think he has done a great job of explaining to people that he's trying to build a program, not a team. And sometimes that may take a little longer. You might can build a team quicker, but to build something that's stable, that's repeating, that you can come back to year and year, that's how you go high school recruiting, building it. It take a little bit longer, but it feels like to me that it's a similar track. When you're talking about, hey, we're going to get better. It may take a little while. We're not selling out to I don't want to say to forfeit years down the road, but this is it feels like a steady climb more than, hey, let's go be a flash in the pan.
Hey, Jason, you know these things, and I think most people know these things, but if you look at the history of unprecedented success, you have examples like Jimmy Johnson with the Dallas Cowboys who went 8-24 after 2 years. Everybody in Dallas thought he was a college guy trying to coach a pro team, and they wanted him gone. What did he do? He won back-to-back Super Bowls. Bruce Pearl, I have the number here, is 32-54 after 3 years. You got a guy in the ACC back in the early 80s who goes 38-47 after 3 years, goes 13-29 in the ACC. They wanted him gone. His name was Mike Krzyzewski. You got a guy at Michigan State in the 80s. After 4 years, he's 25-23. Not that impressive by Big Ten standards. Some folks thought that time had come and gone. His name was Nick Saban at Michigan State. There was a guy that was hired at Texas recently. After 2 years, he was 13-12. His name is Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Some folks were not happy about losing to Kansas for the first time in Austin ever to Kansas. I mean, these things happen over and over and over again. If you want great success at the highest level, you got to hire great people, and you have to let the process happen.
Yeah, no question about it. I think that's a great point.
And how about that guy with the Cleveland Browns who went 20-29 and was fired after 3 years, named Bill Belichick?
Yeah, he was pretty good. I mean, Frank Beamer's the one that always comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
Frank Beamer's a guy that, in this day and age, probably doesn't make it to where he gets to, but they let him build a program. And when he did, he had the most consistent program in the Atlantic Coast Conference for years and years and years. It's a part of it.
Here's another one for you. How about a guy who went from Memphis to Florida State? First 2 seasons is 8-13, and then wins 14 games a year ago, named Mike Norvell.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have some vision for the direction that it's going, and I know Auburn fans get this. It's just part of what we do.
Yeah, that's it. And part of it, hey, is making the hire, trusting the hire, and knowing that you got the right guy. I know you feel like you got the right guy, right things are ahead, but John, man, we appreciate you coming out here and joining us.
And hey, I do want to say, it's a team game, and it's very difficult to play the position of quarterback, and I was talking about that a little bit earlier. A loss is worn by everybody, not one guy. Everybody plays into that. But I think Hugh has a clear message to the entire group in that we got to get better.
Yeah.
And we got to do the little things right to get better to win football games at the highest level.
John, man, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you so much for coming out on this
Thank you.
wet, windy, and breezy night. Hopefully this will stay away from us from Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but thanks again, John Cohen, for joining us, coming out here at AU Club on a Thursday night.
Auburn Athletic Director John Cohen, everybody. Hope everybody enjoyed that interview. Hopefully the audio came through okay. Jason, you previewed the New Mexico side of things. And looking at this team, we already talked about they have some defensive issues, but they have a quarterback who can move around a little bit as John goes and makes the rounds here at AU Club. Talk to me a little bit about your scouting report of a team that is 0-2, but at the same time, we've already mentioned they have a really, what I think was a steal of a coach this offseason in Bronco Mendenhall.
Yeah, no, Bronco Mendenhall's a guy that has won a lot of games. He's won a lot of games at this level. Obviously, being at BYU, and so, when you start talking about having been here and done that, Bronco Mendenhall's a guy that's done it. And I think when you look this week, Devin Dampier's a guy that can really play. Athletic quarterback, he can run. I think this is actually a really good tune-up for Auburn heading into next week when you have Arkansas coming to town and you have a quarterback that's going to run around, Bobby Petrino, different type of guy. But I think Devin Dampier, this is a New Mexico offense that can score. This may be the best offense Auburn. It probably is going to be the best offense Auburn has faced this year. But I think this Auburn defense that grew up a lot last week, I thought they did some good things against Cal, especially responding the way they did. So I would look for Auburn's defensive front. Now, New Mexico's offensive line is really big. I mean, it's a big group, but big group that I think, still probably not as athletic as Auburn's going to be. I think Auburn will be able to challenge them, do some things on the perimeter. So I think defensively, still numbers, pressure up front, stack the line of scrimmage, and make a guy like this beat you throwing the football.
Wanted to touch on a couple more things, Jason, before we get into the recruiting side of things, because there's one storyline that people are continuing to follow very heavily. Injuries in this game, you and I, everybody, I think, would be very surprised if Xavier Miller plays. That has led to a pretty big shuffle on this offensive line. Talk about what we saw this week in practice and what that starting group is probably going to look like.
Yeah, obviously, if you don't have Too Tall, and we didn't see him out there Tuesday, I would be surprised if we saw him with a hip injury. No Too Tall, it means some shuffling. Dylan Wade's a guy that has played right tackle in his career at Tulsa. Looks like he's going to shift to right tackle. Right guard, Jeremiah Wright will stay the same. He'll stay the same, Connor Lew at center. But the left side's going to be very different, and we may see 3 or 4 different lineups on the offensive line. You can see what I think we'll see is Percy Lewis played really well last week. He's had a couple pretty good games, and so I think about Percy, probably still some Tyler Johnson at left tackle. I think we'll see Tate Johnson and Braden Joyner at left guard, and heck, we might see Dylan Wade back at left guard and Ronan Chambers at tackle. So the good news is you got some options. You got some guys that can play. You got some guys that can get the job done. I think for them, can you find the right group, and especially how you want to play this week? I think we'll see more running game, which Ronan Chambers has done a good job of, but I think Dylan Wade's a guy that playing right tackle, that should fit in really well with what they want to do this week. But yeah, it's going to be a different look offense.
And Cam Coleman is obviously a name that everybody gathered here. If you're going to the game, everybody watching going to the game, they want to see a guy like Cam Coleman. Well, if this is a game that Auburn has in hand, I don't know if Auburn wants to see Cam Coleman out there. Shoulder strain for him in the Cal game, but as you and I talked about this week, maybe a little bit more Perry Thompson, because just that receiver rotation got pretty tight against Cal because it was a really close game and they needed to execute at a high level.
Yeah, no, I think I would be surprised if we saw Cam Saturday. I think he's a guy that you know that you're going to need later in the year. You need him to be full speed. You need to be healthy. You've got other guys that can get it done. I think it's more Perry Thompson. You mentioned him. Sam Jackson's a guy that can probably play multiple spots. I think you can play him there. Obviously, Camden Brown's a guy that you have the ability to play outside, and we didn't see much of last week. I think Cam will probably be a guy that, hey, maybe he's gotten really good by the end of this week, and they'll see what he looks like Saturday. I'd still be surprised. My guess is you'll see more Perry Thompson, see him more involved in the offense this week, try to get Cam Coleman healthy as you get ready for SEC play.
Yeah, 28-point favorite Auburn is over New Mexico. I think this is a game where you could see New Mexico covering in a lot of different ways. You could see that happening just because they have an offense that probably will have an ability to score pretty often. But again, as we mentioned, this is a New Mexico defense that should be pretty much the ideal bounce-back opportunity for Auburn's offense to be able to get on the board. The weather, though, just real quickly before we get into recruiting, Jason, that can also be a factor. I mean, if it's 10-mile-an-hour winds and pouring, I don't know about pouring, but if it's raining pretty consistently the entire game, it might be hard to get the reps in there for Hank Brown paintballing.
Yeah, no, it could change the way you want to play, too, on Saturday. The weather could have an impact. So I think it's something to watch. I think it's a part of what you might have to deal with on Saturday. The footing, all those things will be fine at Jordan-Hare Stadium, but if you have wet footballs, then it does have an impact on what you're able to do offensively. So that could be something to watch, as you said, heading into Saturday.
Couple recruiting questions for you, Jason, and then maybe we'll get some AU club representation here to talk a little bit at the end of the show. The first one, when I say the name Deuce Knight, that's something Auburn fans have been waiting on here for a while. To the best of your ability to kind of sum up where we are so far with still a Notre Dame quarterback commitment in Deuce Knight, a guy that Auburn had on campus in consecutive weekends. What are things looking like right now with the guy who is no question their top quarterback target in the 2025 class?
Yeah, I think, you look at Deuce and it's Auburn, Notre Dame. Is Ole Miss still involved? I think the good news for Auburn last Saturday, the only good news about the day was Notre Dame lost at home to Northern Illinois. So you go, hey, Auburn didn't play well, and Notre Dame probably played worse. And so that's the only consolation there. Deuce expected to be back in a couple of weeks for an official visit. I still think nothing's changed there. Still feel like Auburn's in a pretty good spot for the quarterback in this 25 class. Obviously, you got to get to the finish line, and then you got to get to the finish line of December. But I still think Auburn's in pretty good shape with these.
We have some news from our recruiting reporter over here on the side, Jason, that Bryce Perry Wright just tweeted that he is visiting. But talk first about Elijah Melendez, former Miami commitment, a guy who's going to be in this weekend, maybe somebody that you guys could have on commitment watch, and then Bryce Perry Wright is another big target for them on the D-line.
Yeah, Elijah Melendez, a linebacker from Florida, was committed to Miami. Visited a couple weeks ago. To have a guy like that back the second time in 3 weeks that's a pretty good sign for Auburn and their chances. And he's one of those guys I think has continued to grow for Auburn since his OV in the summer when he had an injury that kind of kept him back last year. I think that's a guy to definitely watch. And then Bryce Perry Wright's a physical freak, 2026 defensive lineman. Buford is a really talented player. So I don't know that we'll see as big a group as we've seen the last 2 weeks. When you have 5 in a row, the middle one, especially with Arkansas and Oklahoma coming up, probably going to be a little bit more of young guys on the side this week. So there'll be some talented players, probably some younger guys to pay attention to this week, but should still be a pretty good group.
Jason, as we get set to kind of reach the last section of our show today, wanted to welcome on Jimmy Green if he is ready to join us. As we get to that point, Jason, it's an interesting week. It's not the best week of college football around the country. I think that's sort of evident in the fact that College Game Day is going to South Carolina.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting, but some interesting games on the docket. Missouri and Boston College is one that, look, BC went out and got what looked like a big win. I don't know how good Florida State is. Missouri is obviously looking to prove that they're a team to reckon with. I'm not just saying this because we're here in Auburn, but Alabama-Wisconsin is very interesting to me. Wisconsin feels a lot like that kind of team that has sort of underperformed. I don't think they've scored more than 28 points in a game through these first 2 games, but Alabama's got a lot of talent. But we saw, Jason, what happens when you're not clicking on all cylinders. USF took them to the fourth quarter. I know the score doesn't show it. That's a tough road trip to make. I think that game will be pretty close there in Madison.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting game, but yeah, I don't know that they got enough firepower to win. But it is a fun game, and so, but yeah, it's not a very good slate on Saturday from a football standpoint, and so, yeah, looking forward to it though. Late game for Auburn Saturday night, get a chance to watch some early, and so looking forward to it. Before we slide out of here, we'll bring in Jimmy Green, the guy that I've known for a long time. Thankfully, never had to line up with him on the golf course because he still would blast away pretty much anybody I know. But Jimmy, thank you. First of all, thanks for having us out here. It's been great. Another great crowd here tonight, and enjoying. If people haven't tried the food here, some of the best food in this region.
I tell you what, it's a happening place, isn't it?
It is.
I tell people all the time, we have the very best seafood in Auburn. And the food is fantastic. Chef Robert Hines does a great job. Now, Robert has a connection with Auburn.
Yes.
Jack, his
Yes.
dad.
Yep.
And his grandfather, obviously one of the greatest college coaches ever.
Bobby Bowden.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. For people that are watching, especially that are on the stream, that are from outside this region, give people an idea, because there's a way that you can be a member of this club and you don't live in Auburn, and it's as good a deal as you can possibly have.
It may be illegal actually to mention on the air, but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. This may be the most extraordinary membership in the United States.
No question about it.
You pay an initiation fee of $1,500. You pay a whopping $480 a year to be a member. And we know that $480 now doesn't go as quite a long ways anymore. So we even break it up in 2 payments, $240 and $240. So it's we call it a national membership.
Correct.
And we have members, Oregon, California, New York, New Jersey. We have them all over the country. And we love having our members come back, our national members come back and enjoy the club.
Yeah, and it's a perfect opportunity for people who come back for football games, who come back, who have kids in school.
Well, I'll tell you, this is what I tell them. They come in and they say, what's the benefits of the national membership? I said, first of all, to get the golf course, which is A+,
Incredible.
right? The renovation went unbelievably good. You know, several $1 million we put in the club. The amenities are fantastic. Let's just talk about the dining. You walk in, a busy night for us is 140, 150 covers. You go downtown at 600, right? So you can't get into a restaurant downtown, but as a member here, I would join as a national member just to get in and eat. That's it.
Great. You come here on the weekends and go, hey, I know where I can go to dinner a couple nights a weekend. That's
That's
worth it right there.
That is worth it right there. You're right.
If you're a golfer, trust me.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not so much a golfer. If you're an Auburn alumni and you live outside of 80 miles with AU Club,
yeah.
I can't drive, I can't go and pick you up, but I mean, I could probably do something, arrange it, but you would need to be a member here. It's fantastic.
Absolutely, and you're right. There's lots of things. When you talk about amenities, you have, weight room, training room, swimming pool. 20, I mean, there are things, and this is a golf course, clubhouse, restaurant, fitness center, pool area. I mean, this has what you're looking for in a country club, but it has a much more laid back
But
feel.
it's all geared towards the Auburn family. You know, look, I've been out of school for a few years, right? Just a couple. But we always talk about Auburn family. You look across this room tonight, this is the Auburn family right here.
It is, and we appreciate you.
We got former players in here. I've got my dorm manager when I was here at Auburn. I like to tell everybody that Rusty Dean was my dorm manager.
Yes, lots of stories.
Well, listen, we appreciate y'all being here, and we're excited, and we want what's best for Auburn, because we know what's best for Auburn is what's best for us.
Hey, it's what's best for everybody. It's what's best for us too. So,
That's right.
again, we
That's
appreciate
right.
you letting us be out here, and we'll be back next week, but we'll have you on again here.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. We're gonna pull out a big one this week, and
Get some momentum.
we're gonna work. That's right. Going into Arkansas and Oklahoma.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank y'all so much.
Appreciate you. Jimmy Green, thanks for joining us as we kind of put a bow on this week's show. And John Cohen coming out, Jimmy Green, talk a little football. And Nathan, now it's just, hey, what do you expect? What do you expect to see Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about what this quarterback rotation could look like. You know what this reminds me of, Jason? The game coming back from Cal last year, they played Samford. And it felt like a game where, you can just put the ball on the ground. I think Peyton Thorne threw 2 interceptions in that game, but it was clearly they were making an effort to put the ball in the air.
Yeah.
It was like, let's get this stuff on tape. That's what's interesting to me. Again, the weather could play a factor here. I think for Auburn, Hank Brown, to me, I'm interested to see. I think there's definitely a pretty good chance we see him playing against Arkansas as well, because again, what we talked about earlier, I don't know how much you can learn against a defense like this, but the coaches know more than we do. The coaches are able to see, even if it's just a 5-yard out route, they are able to see that was the right decision versus the other side of the field. Look, Hank Brown is a guy that we got a little taste of his game against Maryland in the Music City Bowl. The reason he won this backup quarterback job, one of the main reasons, Hugh Freeze said Hank said he graded out really well on the deep balls.
Yeah.
One thing I keep coming back to, Jason, I think most people know this, but this is a guy who's been committed to Hugh Freeze and committed to Liberty. Maybe 3 years now is when he first made that commitment. Ken Austin, it did not surprise me to see him rise up into that backup role and to have an opportunity here, because this is a guy that
They believe in him.
they have had a blueprint in their mind
Correct.
for a few years now. What does Hank Brown look like as a college quarterback?
Yeah, they believe in him, and I think that's part of the reason why we see him early Saturday. Heck, I'm not holding out thoughts that he might even start, but I do think we'll see both guys. I think that's the thing. Obviously, it goes back to quarterback. What happens Saturday? We'll be there. We'll have full coverage. AuburnUndercover.com as we head that way. But before we wrap it up,
Yes. Before we wrap things up,
the guy behind the camera has to come out in front of the camera.
he does. Patrick, if you're able to get away from your control room here, we would have absolutely no hope of doing any of these audio things without Patrick, who's a junior at Auburn. It is Patrick's 21st birthday today, and instead of being out at the
Birthday
bars,
boy here.
he is here helping us with his internship here at Auburn Undercover. So, We wanted to say happy birthday to Patrick. Oh, Christian's got
We got to blow out a candle
Christian's
too.
got the candles going on here. Patrick, do you have any birthday words?
Well, we got to figure out the audio a little bit better next week. But other than that, thank you all for the cake.
Yep. So happy birthday, Patrick. Appreciate everybody joining us tonight, and we got a 21st birthday here for our audio engineer.
Big
so,
2-1.
Yep. So thanks everybody. Appreciate everybody joining us, and
If you see Patrick, get him a drink. Get him a drink.
yeah. So yep. Happy birthday, and look forward to this week. He's gonna blow out some candle. Chris is gonna burn his hand up.
He's going to
before
take
he
his
gets
hand right off real quick. There you go.
There you go.
We got some.
All
There
right.
we go. Very well done.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Patrick's going to go right back behind the camera now to close us out. Happy birthday to Patrick, and thank you so much to AU Club for hosting us tonight. Thank you for everybody for listening.
Hopefully it was a little better. The sound carried a little bit more tonight, and we'll do it again next week.
All right, we'll talk to y'all soon.